And that's what I want for you guys, is to tell you, the world tells you, well, if you have money, if you have fame, those are the things that are going to make you happy. The world lies to you, because in the mid-'90s, I did a sitcom. I filmed it in L.A., and we filmed it right next to Roseanne, who had the #1 show. And at the time, Roseanne was making $1 million a week. $1 million every 5 days. She was the most miserable human being I've ever been around. She had all that fame and all that money, and she'd be in the parking lot trying to run over people. She'd be in the parking lot screaming at people and throwing things at them. And I'm like, okay, the world lied, because fame and money hadn't made her happy. You don't get a practice lap here. Be wise. It's not like NASCAR, where you can go around and get your tires hot for a few times and then you start the race. We get one lap. Every day matters. And that's what life is. It's choices and consequences. Here's what I would encourage you to do, in addition to having a small group. Think about the men in your life that you look at and you think, that's the kind of man I want to be. Might be an uncle, might be a grandfather. I was lucky. I had a really good grandfather. Never told me he loved me, but I know he did, because he took me everywhere he went after my dad left. But you look at the men in your life that you go, that's the kind of man I want to be. And I will be willing to bet you every single one of them was not a self-focused person. I bet every single one of them was. Man, I can't stress that enough. You hear guys talk about, oh, here's my favorite verse, or here's my life verse. Mine must be weird, because I've never heard anybody else say it was theirs. But my favorite verse is Galatians 1:10, and it says, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying? And I just decided, with how I live my life, with how I do my act, with what projects I say yes or no to, if I do it in a way that God approves of it, then I really don't care what anybody else thinks about it. So that's, if you're in this business, and I've turned, and here's how cool God is. So the first year I quit IBM, when I quit IBM, I was making like 32 grand a year in 1984. First year I went on the road, I found that little, the little pocket calendars where you write all your dates. And I found the first year I was on the road, I did 406 shows, and I made $8,300. I'm like, crap, how do we live on $8,000? So we had no money. And I had a guy approach me one time, and he was doing truck stop tapes, doing little cassette tapes that he sold in truck stops. And he said, I'll give you $2,500 for every 30 minutes you can give me, but the problem is you're too clean. He said, I need you to throw some cuss words and things in there, because I'm selling them to truckers. They don't want it to be clean. It's the only time in my career that I went against my gut, and I did it. I wasn't even good at it, but I was throwing cuss words in there, and I gave the guy 90 minutes. So that was $7,500 for me in one night, which for a guy that made $8,000 the year before, $7,500 for a night, I'm like, I'm rich. The deal was I got no residuals on it, so that's all I ever made off of that was $7,500. That guy ended up selling 11 million truck stop tapes. So if he made $1 a tape, he made 11 million, and I made 7,500. And I looked at God and went, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. But I sold out, for $7,500, which today I don't know what I did with it. I don't miss it, but crap, I sold out for that. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try not to do that again, Dad. That's what we do when we fall. You guys, man, and that's all I want for you. Find a group, find 5 friends. And you don't have to call it a Bible study. Call it. So I love to talk about purpose, and one of the things that you learn as you get older is perspective. Like, if I ask you to look out the window and describe to me what Atlanta was like, if you had never been to Atlanta, you would say, well, Atlanta, there's a big water treatment plant, and there's a reservoir, and there's like a couple of old factory buildings, and there's a road, and that's what Atlanta's like. Well, if you had never been anywhere but here, that would be Atlanta to you, because that's the only perspective that you see. So I've been poor. I grew up in Hateville, Georgia, with a dirt yard. We didn't know we were poor. We had a great upbringing. I've been rich, so I've seen both sides of that. I've been where nobody knew who I was, and I've been where everybody knew who I was. I've been a newlywed and a new father, and teenagers and grown. And so that's the only advantage that I have is my perspective is maybe different than some of you younger guys. And and that's what the devil does. The devil never makes things look bad. He makes them look good. Wouldn't it be good to have more money, and that way you could leave more to your family and put your kids in the nicest school? And you go, oh yeah, that looks good. I'll start running down here. In the meantime, you never go home, and you never spend time with your wife who feels overburdened, and you don't spend time with your kids who feel ignored, and you were chasing the good and you missed the best. And you don't even have to come. Here's the great news. You don't have to be good at these things. Because, like, not having a dad, as a young kid, I remember thinking, I'm never going to do this to my kids. I didn't know I was going to be a comedian that was going to be on the road all the time. But I'm like, my kids are never going to feel like they're not the priority in my life. And so you know what I did? Well, I'll tell you a great story. So I'm a bow hunter. I'm a big outdoor guy. I bow hunt. I like to fish. I look for arrowheads all over the. So Doc has a small group, and I will tell you guys this. If I was going to encourage you to do anything in your life, it would be get in a small group. Create a small group. Tell me a little bit about your small group.
Well, let's see. We look at it as we're a team. So groups are ladies that sit around and drink wine, right? Mm-hmm. A team is headed towards the same goal in mind, and that's so every man is better than when he comes in. We're there, every man supports another man in the circle. And with that, we do life very well together. And any of them can attest to it.
So the goal is kind of to live life to the fullest.
Absolutely. Plus, we like to eat tacos before drinking beer, so That's what we did tonight. Part of it.
I don't know if I want to sit in at the end of your small group or not. For those of you that don't know what a small group is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a small group of guys that meet probably weekly. I've been in 2 of them in my life, one of them for over 20 years, and we would meet Thursday mornings in the back of a barbecue restaurant and have breakfast, same guys every week. But it's what Doc's talking about. You're doing life together. And so, I mean, we would set it up with, it was on biblical principles. And it's like, I know some of you here aren't believers, and that, I am, and I'm not going to apologize for it. It's others focused. They didn't think about what they wanted. They thought about what other people needed. I grew up in Hateville, down by the airport. I was really lucky. I was the only Chick-fil-A in the world for decades. Had no idea it would become the phenomenon it was. But I was lucky to grow up around Truett, Cathy, who started Chick-fil-A. And Truett was one of the wisest men I ever met. And he used to ask me when I was a little kid, he would look at me and he'd go, Jeff, you know how to tell when somebody needs encouragement? I say, no, sir. He goes, if they're breathing. He goes, everybody needs encouragement. It doesn't cost you anything to give it to them. no schooling, no money. And so I learned at an early age, be an encourager. You walk into a place and the homely little girl running the cash registers there go, oh, I love your hair. That's so pretty. Doesn't cost you a thing, made her day. Made her day that somebody saw her, that somebody noticed. And so my whole life, I'm like, crap, Mr. Cathy, that's a great thing. And what it does is it teaches you to see the good in things instead of the bad in things.